Hi, welcome to the Talk Spot. This is Marcus, and I'm joined again by Andy Bernstein. Andy's been on several times. He's a photographer with the NBA, and he's a great friend of the show. Andy, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thanks so much, Marcus. Always love to be a guest on your show.
Well,
Appreciate it.
perfect. Yeah, definitely. I love having you on. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things you've been up to since last time we spoke. I think the last time we recorded an episode, I think Mama Mentality had just come out. I'm not sure what month. I can't remember exactly what month it came out, but
Yeah.
I think it
Huh.
was a little bit after that, maybe a month or so after that. So yeah, what are some things you've been up to since then?
Well, that was way back in last October, believe it or not, that the book came out, and I'm really happy to say that the world loves the Mamba. The book has gone pretty crazy all over the world. It's now in 16 countries that I am aware of, maybe more, at least 15 languages. Just got a note the other day that it came out in Russia. It's been in China, Japan, Italy, France, blah, blah, blah. So I believe it's at the end or at the first printing or the second printing here in the U.S. So the book has done really well. In fact, I'm going to London this week to do a fun event next week called the NBA crossover event, where they're going to feature the book, and I'm going to do a kind of a Q&A with Kenny Smith. It should be a lot of fun.
Oh wow, that
Yeah.
definitely does sound like a lot of fun. I didn't know that Kenny Smith. I didn't know that he was involved with the book at all.
No, he wasn't, but the NBA has this really cool event called NBA Crossover that they do primarily in their international markets. It's a very cool event, actually, that they sort of cross over the NBA's influence in all types of in culture worldwide. So fashion, music, oh man, everything, social media, technology. So there aren't any clinics going on. There's no basketballs being bounced. It's purely like a cultural event, and the book did really well at their event that they had in Milan in May, and now they're bringing it to London, and hopefully there'll be other stops along the way. When I have when I have some free time, maybe next summer, we'll see.
Well, nice.
Mhm.
So I guess you're also gearing up for the preseason, right? In media day. When are media day? Like when is that? And when does preseason? Does that start? Is it like 3 weeks from now, or something like that, or 4 weeks from now?
Well, the preseason, I'm sorry, media days primarily start the last weekend of September across the league. Some teams do them a little early, a day or two earlier if they're going international. So the Laker one is a couple of days earlier, towards the end of September. The Lakers are going to China in preseason. I'm going with them for the China games. The NBA puts on that event every year. This year it happens to be the Lakers in Brooklyn going to compete in the China games, two games, two different cities in China. So I'll be going with the Lakers. My cohort, Nat Butler, is going to be going with the Nets, and we'll have a whole bunch of other folks accompanying us and a support crew, other photographers. While that's going on, the Clippers will be doing training camp in Hawaii, and they have two games there. And then they come back and play some preseason games in L.A., which I think I'm going to miss a couple of those. So my number one guy, Adam Pantozzi, he'll be covering those. And then I come back, excuse me, and finish up the preseason with, I think, a couple of Clipper games. And I'll actually be shooting the first basketball game ever in the new Chase Center where the Warriors are going to be playing.
Oh wow! Have you had an opportunity yet to go to Chase Center?
Right. Yeah, I went a couple of weeks ago. I'm fortunate that my work was included in this amazing art collection that they have now at Chase Center. A good friend of mine, Tracy Specca, owns a company called Sports in the Arts, and her forte is doing big art installations, multiple pieces in venues. She's done so many great venues throughout the country, Yankee Stadium and the new Minnesota Vikings facility and Prudential Center. There's been so many of them. So the latest one has been Chase Center, and my work was part of that, which is great. So I got to tour the building, and It's beyond spectacular.
Hmm.
Most amazing building I think I've ever been in. So kind of itching to start doing some games up there.
Wow. How many games do you think you'll work in the Chase Center this coming season?
Well, my Lakers and Clippers home schedule is pretty jammed up, so my first priority is to be home with them. And I know I have the first preseason game on October 5th, and then their very first opening game of ever, the first game of the season, later on in October. They actually play the Lakers or the Clippers. I'm not sure. One of those teams plays them on opening night. And then I'll go up there, here and there. I might do about maybe 8 or 10 games throughout the season up there, and we'll see what happens in the playoffs.
Hmm. So, I mean, you work very closely with the Lakers, and obviously Anthony Davis has joined the Lakers. Have you had an opportunity yet to do a photo op with him yet, or do his whole photo? I guess it's more of a photo shoot. Have you had an opportunity to do that yet with him? Because I know we spoke in the past about how LeBron really didn't do that, and I thought it was. I mean, you talked to me a little bit about that before. That it just seemed like a little, at least to me, it seemed a little weird that LeBron didn't really. It just kind of came to LA and that was it. It wasn't really like that big of a deal. And do you think like,
Right.
Anthony Davis is going to be a little different? Like, is there going to be a big photo shoot and everything? And I mean, yeah. What do you think is going to happen with that?
Well, no, there really hasn't been a photo shoot or any kind of unveiling, so to speak. He did a press conference, but that did not include a photo shoot, which usually it does, but it didn't in this case. I think they're trying to be as low-key as possible. That was the same thing with LeBron. If you remember when LeBron went to Miami and they had that crazy rollout of the big three, with he and Bosh and D Wade, and they made a big spectacular out of it. I think, maybe a little bit of veteran seasoning, maybe. It's not really necessary to do that anymore, especially in LA. I mean, the star power is basically, you see it all the time. So they're keeping it as low-key as possible. And I'll get to see AD in a Laker uniform on Media Day. That'll be the first time.
Wow. I mean, I don't know. That just sounds so incredible. I mean, one thing that I guess is a little unfortunate for Anthony Davis is, so he obviously is on the cover of the latest 2K20 game, and unfortunately, like a lot of the reviews for it online, like I haven't played it, but a lot of the reviews are like really negative. And I feel
Oh, that's
bad that
too
it's
bad.
like, yeah, he's in the Lakers jersey. He hasn't even played a game yet, and he's on the cover of this game, and it's kind of getting trashed online, unfortunately.
That's too bad. I honestly, I'm an old guy, so I'm not really in that world. But it's unfortunate to hear. That's too bad because he deserves better than that.
So what was so when it was announced that he was getting traded to Lakers and it was actually really happening? I mean, what are your opinions about that? Like I mean, were you obviously you probably weren't really surprised because I mean you are far more in the know than the average person when it comes to the NBA. So if everybody on Twitter was saying, "Oh, Anthony Davis is going to Lakers," I'm sure when you're in these arenas you probably heard the same thing. But so I mean, you weren't surprised, but when you actually heard that it actually happened, I mean, were you excited? Like, do you feel like is it championship or bust this coming season, or do you think people should be more tempered with their expectations, or kind of what were some of your thoughts?
Well, I was happy. I mean, anything that's going to make the team better, more competitive, more exciting to shoot as a photographer and watch games as a fan, I'm all for that. They came, I guess, very close to making the deal back in, I guess, early February before the trading deadline. That didn't happen. So I think most people probably hoped, maybe expected it to happen in the summer. I don't know. But, I think it's a great move. I think he's a perfect fit for this team. He and LeBron will be great together, and everyone else that they've surrounded him with. I think it's only good stuff. We just got to pray that everybody stays healthy, and they make a real run for it when we get late in the season.
So you've seen Anthony Davis. Obviously, you've seen him play in person. I mean, is he?
Sure.
I mean, I think for a lot of the casual basketball fans, that haven't really watched a lot of Pelican games over the last several years because they really haven't been that great of a team. Do you kind of feel like that his skill and talent is a little forgotten about by the general basketball fan just because they haven't really seen him play all that much?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to assess it. I mean, the times he has been showcased either on the very few national TV games that he's been lucky enough to be on, or All-Star Weekend, or USA Basketball. It's very obvious how good this guy is. I mean, it's he's a very special talent, and this day and age, to have a guy that big, that's that agile and deadly and so great on defense, very rare. So I think knowledgeable NBA fans know the deal with this guy. Obviously, his visibility is going to be ratcheted up, a million times now that he's in LA and on so many national TV games. And I think he will come through. I can't imagine that this is. He must be like counting the days till the season starts so he can get out there and show what he can do to everybody.
So I think it was the other day, Dennis Rodman and Scottie Pippen, they were in a segment with Rachel Nichols talking about the kind of the circus around the Bulls when they did the second three-peat. Obviously, you've been working with the NBA for a very long time. Do you feel like if the Lakers are a good team this year, do you think that the circus for the Lakers this season could just be equal or greater than teams in the past where, I'm not necessarily talking about the drama side, but just everything, like the most national televised games out of all, the teams in the league, and just, I don't know, just that whole hoopla of a team that's really great that has, LeBron James on it. It's Lakers. I mean, they're making a TV show about I'm sure you probably know about this. I'll probably ask you about it later, but the Showtime Lakers HBO show that's coming on. I don't know when it's debuting. I don't know if it's next year or 2 years from now, but do you think is there going to be like a circus environment this year, you think, for the Lakers in Staples Center, or do you think it'll be more tame than past maybe contenders?
I think it remains to be seen. I mean, obviously the team has to be good on the court, and the Bulls were like a rock show. I mean, all 6 of those championships, it was literally like shooting a rock tour when they went from city to city. I think it'll be that much bigger maybe for the Lakers if they're successful on the court. Only because there's so much more media, there's so many more outlets than there were back in those Bulls' heyday. But that's kind of the way it is. LeBron last year attracted a lot of media. I remember that very first press conference. They couldn't even have it in the locker room. They had to bring him outside the locker room. It was jam-packed. There was so much media there. It looked like an NBA Finals. And it was, regular season games. So, that's my world. I love it. I look forward to it. I sharpen up my elbows and get to work.
Well, the Lakers should be a lot more exciting than they were, say, the 2014-15 season.
Yeah, I can't even remember that far back. But yeah,
that's
probably.
That's probably a good thing, though. I wanted to ask you, because of that show, are you involved with it at all? Or, I mean, are they using any of your photos? Or I don't know if you signed an NDA or anything like that related to that, the Showtime or the HBO show about the Showtime Lakers that, oh my gosh, was Adam McKay is making? I think it's Adam McKay.
Yeah, I was interviewed for something. I'm not sure if it was that show or something else. I mean, I'm sure they'll be using my photos. Happy to talk to them, if they want to talk more about it. But anything that brings back the Showtime days is okay with me. I miss that era. I miss those guys. The memory of it. So I'm excited about anything. This sounds like it'll be a fun show.
Because when did you start working? Well, I guess at the time it was the Forum, but what year did you start doing the Forum? I forgot if you said if that was
well, this
80?
is my 38th year, so it was 81, 82.
Okay. Oh, so you were there for basically the entire Showtime Lakers era.
That is correct, my friend. Yes, Magic and I were. He was in like his second year, but we always like to joke that we were rookies together. So yeah, it was I was there the entire time. I mean, Pat Riley had just become coach, I think, or hadn't become coach yet. I don't even remember, but I was a young photographer then, and the team and the organization, they welcomed me in. I became very good friends with Magic. Pat Riley was really instrumental in helping me kind of get my confidence around the guys, and it just grew from there.
That's so incredible. That I mean, your career. I mean, you were there with the Showtime Lakers. You were there with the Michael Jordan Bulls. You were there with Kobe and Shaq. You've been there
Yeah.
for this whole time. Now, even the Chase Center, right? That's where the Warriors moving
Yeah,
into.
Chase Center. Yeah, yeah.
And so the state of the art, like stadium and everything, and you're going to be there for the first game of that. I mean, that talk about an incredible
Yeah.
legacy.
I know, it's crazy, right? But
Yeah.
it's progress, and I'm just glad they keep having me back. It's makes me happy that my work still kind of speaks for itself, and the NBA and my team still want me around, and I'll be there as long as they need me.
So another thing I want to talk to you a little bit about. So we talked about this a little before we recorded, but ESPN, they did this. I guess I would call it like a 9/11 special. Kind of, it was
Hmm.
about the sports world in New York right after 9/11. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about what was the sports world like after 9/11? Like, or do you have any specific stories you remember, or specific first games after the tragedies of 9/11 happened, and especially this very you know, relevant to today because it's the 18th year anniversary. But yeah, if you wouldn't mind maybe
Sure.
talking a little bit about that, if you have a chance.
Well, what comes to mind is, quite frankly, the actual date of September 11th, 2001. In addition to the hat I wear for the NBA, Lakers and Clippers specifically in LA, I've also been the longtime team photographer for the LA Kings, the hockey team. And every year, they do their version of media day. It's not quite the same thing as in the NBA. They call it medical day, where they have their veterans and rookies come in, and they go through the battery of medical tests and all kinds of evaluations, and then we also do our headshots of the guys, that first day. And that particular year, it was scheduled on September 11th. And they like to get started very, very early in the morning. They have a lot of guys. They probably have 70 guys or so, if not more, come through. And they pace it so that the youngest guys come in first, So they wanted me up and ready to go at the facility in Inglewood. In El Segundo. I had to be ready to shoot at 6:30 in the morning. So I live quite a distance from El Segundo, and it was a weekday, and it would be crazy traffic. So I just decided to stay at the hotel, there's a hotel right next door to the Kings facility, so that I'd be right there, fresh, ready to go. So anyway, I think very long story short, I get up at 5 a.m. Keep in mind, this is 5 a.m. LA time. It's 8 a.m. in the morning in the East Coast. And take a shower, get ready, blah, blah, blah. I got the TV on. I think I got the CNN or whatever. And as I'm getting ready, I'm watching this thing on the TV, sort of on my peripheral vision. And I'm thinking I'm watching a trailer for some kind of crazy action movie, seriously. By now it's about 5:40 in the morning. And lo and behold, it wasn't fiction. It was for real, and the first tower got hit, and they had no idea on TV what had happened. People thought it was an errant plane, like a private plane. They didn't know it was a jetliner. People were talking about that in the past, the Empire State Building had gotten hit by 2 or 3 planes over its lifetime. So it was horrifying. It was terrible, but I had to work, so I go next door. I set up. I'm in the lounge where the players were going to be coming in, and there's a big screen TV in the lounge which was on. And as we're shooting, the players are coming in. This is the most surreal thing ever. I'm taking a headshot, and to my left, the second tower gets hit, And then everything just stopped, for us, and everyone was glued to the TV. And I remember everyone came in and just they're watching this unfold. And as you know, an hour or so later, both, first tower falls and the second tower falls, and it was just a horrifying experience. And nobody knew what to say or do, or are we going to just end this medical day thing, or are we going to, no one's been in that position before. Well, the more tragic part B to this entire story is about half an hour later, as we're watching the whole thing on the news, Luke Robitaille, who was president of the team, came in and unfortunately gave us the news that 2 King's Scouts were on the plane from Boston that went down, that crashed. And I knew both of those guys. Mark Davis and Ace Bailey, 2 incredible guys with families, and they were just coming home from doing some scouting for the start of training camp. So it was, it was. I can't even describe the tragic, just emptiness, hopelessness, helplessness that we all felt at that time. And all of us are like bonded together now, and through that one experience. But every year, the Kings post a photo of the 9/11 memorial with both guys' names there, beautifully etched, and of course I reposted that on my Instagram this morning. And it's just real life just got in the way of sports, which makes sports look so unimportant at that moment, and in a lot of moments in life when sports just shouldn't be the priority. But that's my 9/11 story. And then following that, of course, we had games and baseball was going on. I remember there was some discussion about what would happen with baseball games, and I think they canceled some, and the World Series, how they would treat that. And of course, when we got into it with the NBA, there was a lot of conscious remembrance of 9/11, and continues to be.
Wow.
So yeah, that's my long-winded story, but you asked, so there it is.
No, I mean, thank you so much for sharing that, because, I mean, I think one thing that's a little sad about it, I think Mike Greenberg, oh, gosh, I can't remember his name. He so he was hosting the special, and he said something during, I forgot who he was talking to, but he said something about how the fact that his kids, I guess I don't know how old they are, but he kind of made it sound like they weren't born yet when 9/11 happened. So it's now for them, it's just it was just a thing that happened in the past that they don't really have that emotional connection to. And I think it's so weird to think about. But now that it's been 18 years, I mean, there are people that are 15 years old in America that for them it's
for sure.
It's not even a memory. It's just something that they've been told about, and it's at least one thing that's, I guess, positive about the fact that it happened in the era that it happened is that we have so much documentation about it. So hopefully, it won't be forgotten, because it's sad to think about that. It I don't know. It just seems, I mean, everybody everybody that was alive and old enough, weren't like a young child when 9/11 happened. Everyone can kind of remember it, but it does seem like it. Yeah, 18 years. I mean, doesn't it seem like it's flown by for you? But at the same time, it was a very long time ago.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was around during the Vietnam War. I was a kid. Now you talk about the Vietnam War, this millennial generation, it's like talking to me about World War II or World War I, when I wasn't born. I have older kids that are now in their mid-20s that were 4 and 5 years old, 6 years old when 9/11 happened. And then I have an 11-year-old who, of course, wasn't around then. So that's a little bizarre, to have kids on both sides of having been alive when it happened and not. Just like everything in history, I don't want to get too philosophical, but, including the Holocaust and things that we start getting further away from in our rearview mirror of life over time, we have to be very conscious of keeping those memories alive, because history does have a way of repeating itself when we forget. And I think it's very important to retell the story of 9/11. I think the documentaries that are done are terrific and should be watched, and they should be watched by all kinds of people who lived through it, who didn't, and that will only keep us keeping the spirit and obviously the memory of the people who died during that incredibly tragic day alive.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good point. I mean, to even kind of, to me, it kind of illustrated how long ago it was when the host, like I said, I forgot if it was Greenberg or I think it was Mike Breen. That might have been, I don't know. He had out the quarterback for the Jets, who was the quarterback at that time. And I saw him now, and it was like, wow, this guy looks like he's about 50. Like, the quarterback looks so old now. And I was thinking, yeah, I mean, that's because it was 18 years ago. If he was 30 when that happened, or I don't know how old he was when it happened, but 25 or 30.
Crazy.
Yeah, but, well.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, sports is that way, too. I mean, people, how many millennials, no millennials, I should say, had ever seen Michael Jordan play, or Magic Johnson, or Dominique Wilkins, or Larry Bird, or all the greats that, were part of my seasoning in the NBA. And, social media is great now because it keeps those memories alive. That's what I'm trying to do with my platform, Legends of Sport, is to continue to celebrate, document, and perpetuate the iconic memories that should be remembered. And none of these athletes should ever go kind of off into the sunset, never to be remembered again. As well as, moments and venues. The great, like Oracle Arena was a great arena that'll be forgotten about in, who knows, a couple of years when people don't even remember that the Warriors played there.
Yeah.
The Forum, same thing. Staples Center is a glorious place. I love it. It's my second home, but the Forum had its own personality, and as well as the LA Sports Arena and the old Boston Garden, the old Chicago Stadium. There's nothing bad about progress, but we want to still remember and celebrate those memories that we all had, either as adults or kids or parents or grandparents or whatever, that we can continue to pass down through our family, and social media is really helping with that.
I mean, you mentioned even players that are kind of forgotten. I mean, even some Laker legends. I mean, you look at a player like, Elgin Baylor or George Mikan or even Wilt Chamberlain. Like, I mean, people remember them, but it's, especially somebody like Mikan. I mean, it's not really ever talked about, like, how great of a player he was, or, like even Baylor and Chamberlain. It's like, when people look back at that, they think, oh, well, those guys stopped playing, almost 50 years ago. So most people weren't even fans at all. And like you said, that'll be the same thing 20 years from now. Yeah, it's Michael Jordan playing is going to be a long, distant memory by then.
No, you're absolutely right. I just came back from the Hall of Fame enshrinement in Springfield, and I love going to that because I get to see these guys. I mean, I never saw Spencer Haywood play. I never saw Dick Barnett. I mean, I saw Dick Barnett play as a kid, honestly. I remember that. But guys like that, Rick Barry, I never saw Rick Barry play, but yet, he's there in person, alive. He's still there. So many greats of the past that it's wonderful to go to one place and be able to listen to the stories, and these guys are so happy to be kind of reliving their heyday and all the glory that they went through, and the camaraderie and brotherhood that they had. It's a wonderful thing. It really is.
Yeah. All right, Andy. Well, definitely. Yeah, I want to thank you so much again for coming on. I love chatting with you. I mean, hopefully, if hopefully if the coming season isn't too hectic, maybe you could come on again sometime while it's going. And I love to hear some of how the energy is for the Clippers and the Lakers. And definitely. Yeah, thank you again so much for coming on.
Of course, Marcus. Anytime. Love making time for you, and I always enjoy our chats, my friends. So thank you for reaching out again.
No problem, Andy. We'll have a good rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, take care. Bye bye.
You too. All right, bye.